essentially Good morning, everyone. This is Robin. I'm going to be leading the Business Analyst RDP workshop today. I see some people are still joining in, so we're going to go ahead and get started at 10:05. So you have a couple minutes to use the bathroom or get some coffee before we start. So, yep, 10:05. Please be back on the call to officially start the workshop. Thank you. All right, let's get started. So thank you all for joining. I feel like I've met most of you before. If you've requested the RDP licenses, nice to see you again. Or if you joined an urban workshop previously for the SoCal region, nice to see you again. If you haven't met me, nice to meet you. I'm Robin Franke. I'm the account executive for ArcGIS Urban at Esri. And I mainly support planning departments in SoCal and western parts of the United States in leveraging GIS technology. And because one of my regions is the SCAG region, I also helped with the SCAG regional data platform rollout, which included the member agency licenses. So we've probably been on previous calls if you requested those licenses that are available through the SCAG program. And part of the SCAG RDP launch is a series of workshops. So we had one last week on ArcGIS Online that was hosted by Justin. And so the next workshop is for today, which is Business Analyst, which is also a tool available to all SCAG members through the Regional Data Platform project. And so today we're going to do a deep dive into Business Analyst, explore the basic functions, explore exactly what it can do, and then also you can explore your city in the application and see if you can find any interesting trends that you didn't know of before through the application and the data available. So to help me with this workshop, we have two wonderful coworkers. So we have Morgan, who's an account executive on the Smart Cities team as well, and Andrew Makowicki, who is a solution engineer on the state and local government team. Do you both want to just briefly introduce yourself?
Sure, I'll kick it off. Hi, everyone. My name is Morgan Sapia. As Robin mentioned, I am an account executive on the Smart Cities team. Whereas Robin focuses on ArcGIS Urban and Business Analyst, I focus on ArcGIS Hub. And we'll mention this at the end of the workshop here today, but I will be hosting a very similar workshop to what Robin is putting on in the future, specifically for ArcGIS Hub. So I'm really excited to be here and to learn a bit more about Business Analyst. Thanks, Robin.
Thanks, Morgan.
Sorry. Morning, everyone. I'm Andrew Makowicki. I'm a solution engineer on our Southern California team. I work with local governments here, mostly LA County, City of LA, Orange County, and some major cities in Orange County. And I play a technical role for local governments, helping to understand how to integrate Esri technology into their departments and programs. So it's a pleasure to meet everyone. Exciting to work with everyone today.
Thanks, Andrew. So yeah, as Morgan mentioned, this is workshop number 2 of 4 in the RDP series. So we had ArcGIS Online previously, and if you weren't able to attend, there will be a recording posted of that workshop on the Planners Corner website, the RDP Planners Corner website as well. So you can look back at that recording. The second one is today's for Business Analyst. And then next week, we'll have one for ArcGIS Urban. And then after that in May, we'll have one for ArcGIS Hub, which Morgan will be leading. So we'll share the links to register for the Urban and Hub workshops at the end of this meeting. All right, so just to keep in mind, this is a hands-on workshop. So let me go over the agenda very quickly. I'll first do an overview of Business Analyst, what it can do, what data is available in the application, and then we'll head directly to the hands-on portion. So that means that you'll be following along with me. We'll log on to ArcGIS Online and we'll do the steps together on first creating a project. Then we'll create maps in BAO that includes smart maps as well as color-coded maps. Then we'll continue to do a business and facility search and pull up third-party data information from the application for our jurisdiction of choice that we want to explore. And then we'll learn on how to create visuals in Business Analyst, which includes infographics and reports. So that is the agenda today. And if we do have some time left over, at the end, we can use that to explore additional functionality. All right. Oh, yeah. One more housekeeping thing to note. So when we get to the hands-on portion, please utilize the chat or the reactions feature in Zoom. So if I ask a question like, is everyone seeing what I'm seeing? If you could just type in yes in the chat or give me the thumbs up reaction so I know that we're all on the same page, that would be awesome. And in addition, if you have any questions on anything that I'm saying, please feel free. You can take yourself off mute, or you can also use the chat to answer the questions or to ask questions. Andrew and Morgan will be monitoring the chat and will stop me to ask those questions so I can be sure to answer them. All right, so let's first start off with the overview. So what is ArcGIS Business Analyst? So Business Analyst is a web-based application that connects to the ArcGIS platform. It is an online product that you log into, which provides access to a variety of different data sets available in ArcGIS. And since it is built on and integrated with the ArcGIS platform, you can share and leverage content you and others have created. For example, if you have a web map that you made in the previous session with Justin for ArcGIS Online, you can view that web map and the data you created in that web map in Business Analyst for analysis and vice versa. So if you make something in Business Analyst, if we create a map, you can share that to ArcGIS Online and create a web map from the data you made in Business Analyst. And that will make more sense when we actually do it in person. So Business Analyst helps organizations make informed decisions about population, resource allocation, and communities. It also allows you to combine your data with demographic, lifestyle, behavioral, and spending data from Esri. And it lets you understand data using smart mapping, location-driven analytics, and beautiful reports and infographics. And Business Analyst is a tool that doesn't require GIS experience. Similar to Urban, it's powered by GIS data, of course, but the interface is very simple and made for people who don't necessarily have training in GIS courses. All right, so what data is available in Business Analyst? So there are a variety of different data sets available, and we'll explore all of these in the hands-on portion. They include census data from the 2010 and 2020 census. 2020 census data is actually, some of it has been released in the application, which we can explore if we have more time, and some of it is going to be released within the next couple of months. We also have data from the 2019 American Community Survey. And then we have Esri data. And Esri data is created by our in-house demographers that includes information like tapestry, segmentation, as well as updated demographics. And once we get to the Esri data, we can speak more about how it's created and the accuracy of it. And then we also have other data available in Business Analyst, like spending behavior coming from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and licensed data from our third-party partners. So I mentioned how we can do a business and facility search. That data is coming from our third-party partners like Infograph and Data Axle. So if we want to know about a variety of different businesses in our city and we want to pull up all of those specific types of businesses, we're able to do that in the application. And that's the nice thing about Business Analyst is that all of this data is already available to you in the application. It doesn't require you to load in any additional data sets if you don't want to or if you don't have any, but you can if you'd like. So if you do have data that your jurisdiction is maintaining that you want to analyze with Business Analyst's smart mapping features or enrich with data sets and create infographics from your existing data, that's absolutely something you can do. But it's nice to know that you can do a lot with the data that's already available in the application, ready for you to use. All right, so I briefly just want to talk about two different types of maps we can make in Business Analyst, and that we'll do in the hands-on portion. So the first is a color-coded map. So color-coded maps are choropleth or schematic maps of standard geographies by a chosen variable. And there are many different styling options that you can use in Business Analyst for a color-coded map. And then there's the option to filter your data by geography as well. We can also conduct a smart map search. So a smart map search allows us to find areas that meet specific criteria of data that we have selected. And we can choose up to 5 different variables and set minimum and maximum values of each. And we will go over the following on how to create color-coded maps and smart maps in the hands-on. Something I also just want to add as an aside. So if you're familiar with Esri technology and you're using Esri technology in your organization, Business Analyst has a sister product called Community Analyst. So you might not have Business Analyst in your organization, you might have Community Analyst, but they are essentially the same thing. So everything that we talk about today on Business Analyst is applicable to Community Analyst. So if you have Community Analyst, you can do everything that we're going to show today for your jurisdiction using the Community Analyst licenses. All right, so in addition to making maps in BA, we can use and create reports and infographics. So there's many different options for creating reports. There are default reports that you can create or you can customize or that you can use, and then you can customize and create your own default reports. And you can build your own from scratch or from existing reports. And these can include charts, images, text, tables, and maps. And then those charts or reports and infographics that you create can then be exported and shared. So you can export it to ArcGIS Online, or you can export it even as a PDF if you'd like to share that more broadly with different stakeholders as well. And so we're going to do the hands-on portion very shortly. And through that hands-on portion, we're going to be making both types of maps. We're going to do the color-coded map and the smart map search, and then we'll go through business and facility information, and then we'll explore infographics with data for our jurisdiction in the application as well with infographics. All right, so that is just a brief overview of Business Analyst and what it can do and what we'll do next. So now I want to move on to the hands-on portion of the workshop. So I believe everyone received an email from me yesterday afternoon, or if you registered yesterday evening, you might have received the email this morning. And so that email has a unique username. So I want everyone, if you could, to go to Google Chrome, and you can use an incognito tab if you'd like, and just search for arcgis.com. So what we're going to do is we're going to log on to ArcGIS Online by searching for arcgis.com, and then your username will be urban_student, and then instead of the #, each one of you has a unique number that was given to you in an email. So you might be urban student 2, you might be urban student 32. Please check the email to make sure. And then all of us have the same password. It is CloudGIS123. And if you do not know your username, feel free to message us in the chat. We have a list so we can give you your student number in case you're unable to find that email or pull up that info. All right, yeah, thanks, Morgan. So Morgan pasted the link in the chat to arcgis.com, and I'll go ahead and do this with you all on my screen. So I searched for arcgis.com. The next thing I'm going to do is click the sign in button, and here we'll be prompted to log in with a username and password. So here you would put urban student 1 through 50. I'm going to log in to my workshop account. All right, was everyone able to log in? Are there any questions? Feel free to say yes in the chat if you're able to log in. So
Robin, somebody asked, what if it says my link has timed out?
That's very strange. Like if you go to arcgis.com and then put in your username and password, that's where it gives you a timeout message.
Try it again
Okay.
and I'm in. We're good.
Perfect. So now everyone should see a similar screen. You might have a different color background, but it should say ArcGIS Urban Workshop, and then we should have buttons at the top for Home, Gallery, Map, Scene, Notebook. And so what we just logged into is ArcGIS Online, which is what Justin went over last week in the ArcGIS Online workshop. So we're kind of going to pick up where he left off at the end of the workshop, and we are going to open Business Analyst from ArcGIS Online. All right. Is everyone at this step? Was everyone able to log in? And can everyone see the same thing I'm seeing before we go to the next step? All right. Yep, so the password is cloud GIS123. Thank you, Morgan. So I'll just wait a couple seconds for everyone to log in really quick. All right, so as mentioned, Business Analyst is an application that is an extension of ArcGIS Online. So that's why we have to first log into ArcGIS Online in order to access Business Analyst. And to actually open the application, we are going to click the App Launcher button, which is that grid of 9 dots next to our notification bell in the top right-hand corner. So when you click on the App Launcher button, it will show all of the geo-enabled tools that we have access to. So we'll see ArcGIS Online, Experience Builder, Map Viewer, and the one that we're going to focus on today, which is Business Analyst. So once you see Business Analyst in the icon, which is that little pin with the little bullseye badge in the blue color, go ahead and click on the application, and it should open Business Analyst in a new tab for you in Chrome. And then that tab will ask you to sign in. And we won't have to sign in again since we already signed in. But once you're here, click the sign in button and it will open up Business Analyst for you. All right, so here you can see my screen. So this is the project's homepage of ArcGIS Business Analyst. Depending on if your user has opened Business Analyst before, you might have a welcome ArcGIS urban number, blah, blah, blah. And then it's kind of like a wizard. It will say, oh, set up a new profile photo. And then there's an option to skip that step. I'm not seeing it on my account because I have used Business Analyst before, but you might be seeing a wizard show up on adding your profile, which you don't have to do. Just simply click skip this step. And so if you might also be seeing a little pop-up that shows what's new in Business Analyst, you can go ahead and close that window. And once we're all here, what we want to do is create a project. So if you have that wizard showing up for Welcome to Business Analyst, after you click skip this step, it will have you create a new project. And for everyone else that has the same view that I'm seeing here, go ahead and click the Create New Project to the right. So that Add button says Create New Project. Does everyone have this Create Project little widget open? And can you have the ability to name a project? So before I move on, is anyone stuck? Does anyone not know how I got to create a new project? Okay, I think everyone's good. All right, so we're all going to name our project. So we can name it by the jurisdiction we're representing. So in this case, I'm just going to do Esri since I don't work for any city or county, but choose your city name. So if you're from the city of Torrance, put Torrance and then do SCAG workshop for naming your project. So put your city or county name and then SCAG workshop. And once you type in the name, we're going to go ahead and click the create button. So we don't need to customize any project attributes. Just give the project a name and then click create. And this might take 35 seconds. And so what actually is happening is that business analyst is creating a project and it's creating some layers in ArcGIS Online to store data and analyses that we might be running in the application. So that's why, and it will tell you right at the bottom, like what type of layers it's setting up at the moment. So let's wait until our project has been successfully created and it will say your project has been created. You can go ahead and click the OK button. And now you'll see your project on the far left of your project's card widgets. And so you'll see the project that you just created with the name. And if you hover over that project, there is an orange open button. And that's what we're going to select to open our project. So let's go ahead and click the open button here, and we're taken to our business analyst interface. So I want to stop here. Was everyone able to create their project successfully and then open their project? All right, I'm not seeing any no's, which is good. So I'm going to keep moving forward. All right. So this is our map interface of business analyst. So first thing I want to point out is that on the very top portion of our screen, we have three buttons. We have home, we have maps, and we have reports. If you click on home, that will take us back to our home page where we can open our project or create a new project. If you click on maps, it will take you back to the mapping interface of that project. And you know which project you're in when you click on maps and you can see the title of your project right here. So this is my Esri SCAG workshop project. So we're going to stay in maps for a majority of this session. And for navigating in business analyst is not 3D. It is only 2D. So you only have to left click in the application to pan. So if you hold down left click and move back and forth, that is how you can pan your map view. And we have a toolbar on the right-hand side with a variety of buttons. So our first is the ability to add a pin or add a location. And then we're on our pan and zoom button right now, which allows us to move around our map view. We can select, we can zoom in, we can zoom out, we can measure, we can add annotations. So if we want to comment on a particular pin or we want to make notes in our map, that's something we can add. We have the ability to clear map, and we're going to be using this between each of our sessions. So for clearing map, it will just take off the layer that we're working with so we can move on to another analysis. And then this one is also important. So share map to ArcGIS. So once we create a map in Business Analyst, we can share it to ArcGIS. And that means that the layers that we make in the Business Analyst interface, we can export the map layer to a new hosted feature service. So there's that option once we have data on our map. And that means that it will create a feature layer for the data that we created in Business Analyst. And if you recall, if you joined Justin's ArcGIS online workshop, once we have feature layers, we can put that in a web map, a web app, a story map. Opportunities are endless since we're working with data in the ArcGIS platform as a whole. So I just wanted to point that out before we get started, that all of the data and analyses we make in Business Analyst can be shared and integrated with the rest of the ArcGIS platform. So I'm going to go ahead and click cancel. Okay, any questions on the interface or what any of these buttons can do? All right, so the first thing I want to do is make sure that my map is zoomed in to the area I want to analyze. So on the top right-hand corner, go ahead and type in your city name or whatever city name that you would want to run an analysis in. So for this example, I'm going to do City of San Fernando, but feel free to choose whichever city you would like. And once you start typing in the name of your city, a drop-down will populate some choices of city that you would want to look at. So San Fernando, California is the one I'm going to choose. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And once you search for a city, it will automatically zoom the map right to the city that we searched for. So now, because I searched for San Fernando, my map is now in the city of San Fernando. Again, you can choose whatever city you would like, your own city or another city you're interested in or your hometown, really doesn't matter. All right, so as you can see, I have a pop-up and it will say add site name, and it will ask me if I want to create a site, move the point, or remove the point. Let's click remove the point since I just wanted to search to get my map in a particular area. I don't really want to make a point right now. So I'm going to go ahead and click remove point. All right, so now that we have our map in our area that we want to analyze, we want to create a boundary. So if we're doing a citywide analysis, we can pull in geographic boundaries from Business Analyst to run the analysis in. And that's what we're going to do. So if I want to do a citywide analysis of San Fernando, I'm going to pull up a citywide boundary of San Fernando. So to do that, I'm going to make sure I'm in map still, and then I'm going to click the fourth button, which is define areas. So go ahead and click define areas, and now there will be 3 options. So we can find location, we can select geography, or we can define an area by drawing a custom shape. I want to do select geography because I want to pull up the citywide boundary. So go ahead and select geography. And then on the left-hand side, we'll have our select geography pane. And now we have the option to search, select from map, or select from list. We are going to choose select from map. And now on the left-hand side, we have different geographic boundaries that we could pull up. We could do census tracts, we could do block groups, we could do the cities and towns or congressional districts. Because I want to do a citywide analysis, I'm going to do cities and towns. But you can do a block group if you'd like, or a census tract. All right, so I'm going to click cities and towns, and now it's asking me to select map or select geographies in the map to the right. So I'm going to click once, left click once on my map to select my citywide boundary. And you know you have a citywide boundary selected when on the left-hand side it says the city or census tract name that you chose, and there's a little checkbox, and then you can see the boundary and the map. And if you selected a very large city, you can zoom out to see the full extent of that boundary. City of San Fernando is quite small, so it just happens to fit directly in the current screen. And if you click once and then click again, it will deselect it. So make sure that you have it selected. We have those lines and our red outline in our map view, and we have it checked to the left. So once we've selected our geography from our map, we can go ahead and click next. And so now we've created a site, and it should be the sage green color. So it should be a transparent polygon shape on our map view in a sagey green color. And that means that we have created a site in Business Analyst. And this site we can use to run analyses in. And once you're done, go ahead and click I'm done on the left-hand side. All right. Just a quick check here. Was everyone able to create the site boundary? Perfect. All righty. So now that we have a site, we can create maps. So in my presentation, I mentioned that there's two different types of maps we can make. We can do a color-coded map, or we can do a smart map search. So the first thing we'll do is a color-coded map. So to do that, go up to our blue banner here again, or blue ribbon. So make sure we have map selected and click create maps. Now we have three options: color-coded, smart map, business and facility search. Let's click color-coded maps. And now we'll open our color-coded map pane to the left-hand side. And here it will automatically populate popular variables that are available in the application that we can view for our site boundary. And we can also browse all of the variables available. So here's a list of popular variables. I want to look at all the variables that are available in the application. So I'm going to click browse all variables. So in Business Analyst, the variables are separated into different categories, and there are a variety of different categories of variables available in the application. If I click on housing, for example, let's all click on housing, we can see even further breakdown of all of the housing variables that are available. So we have three popular variables, and then if we want to keep browsing, we can go more in depth on different housing statistics and variables available. One thing I want to point out is that in parentheses of any variable listed, it will give the source of the data. So for 2021 total housing units, in parentheses, it says Esri. That means that this data set is coming from our Esri data team. And so I'm going to call on Andrew to explain what the Esri data team does and what data sets they produce. Andrew, would you mind explaining that for everyone?
Yeah, thanks, Robin. So Robin mentioned earlier that we have in-house demographers at Esri, and what they actually do is they estimate annual demographic and socioeconomic variables, and they also do 5-year estimates. So for each year, we release a new set of variables for that year based on the former census data, and we extrapolate outwards those values. And so not only do we create these variables, but we have them validated for their accuracy. And in 2010, for our 2010 estimated values and the 2010 census variables that came out, we submitted our data for a blind study against 4 other vendors. And what came back was Esri's margin of error was the lowest margin of error. So it was the most accurate of all 4, well, 5, considering Esri as part of that, vendors. And so we had our validation of the data sets for these estimated annual values. And I'll send a link to that documentation that discusses the statistical analysis that gauges the accuracy and the information on that blind study test. So it actually gives the values. And we did this for population household data rankings. And so I'll put that in the chat here just a moment.
Thanks, Andrew. And then I'll also share it in a follow-up just in case you're interested in exploring where all of our data sets are coming from. So whether they're from the census, whether it's coming from our Esri data team or our third-party partners as well, which we'll get into in another exercise. So Because we're talking about Esri data sets, let's add the 2021 total housing units data set to our map. So to do that, all you would do is simply click the data set and it will populate that map for you. So again, in case you're not in housing, if you are stuck in categories, go to the housing category and let's select the 2021 total housing units. And once you select that data set, it will populate it on the block group level for our entire map extent. And on the left-hand side is our legend where we can style our data and filter our data. And that's the first thing I want to address. So under our legend, we can see that it is filtering it down to the block group level. And then this drop down right here says it's showing all of the block groups within the current map extent. And that means our whole mapping window right here. So it's showing the block groups for the entire mapping window. I'm going to filter that down to the site we created, which is our citywide boundary, in my case, for City of San Fernando. So go ahead and select that boundary or site so that we're only looking at block groups within the site that we created, whether that was a citywide site or a census tract or a zip code, what have you. All right, so that is now a filtered look at 2021 total housing units by block group level. And if I hover over a block group, it will show me how many housing units are in that particular field. And you can see here that there's different years. So as Andrew said, we'll always do like the current year, and then we'll do a projection for 5 years out. So if you want to see the total housing units projected for 2026 using formulas that are documented in that link that Andrew provided, that is something that we can see as well. But I'm going to keep it at 2021. All right, so we've added a variable to our color-coded map. We can add multiple variables to our color-coded maps if we want to make a connection or a relationship between two different data sets. So that's what we're going to do next. We've added total housing units by block groups. Let's go back and add another variable. So right below our box for our current variable, go ahead and click the Add Variable button on the left. And that will allow me to search for another variable in my data browser for categories. So for this one, I want to still focus on housing. So I'm back where I was before under housing. I'm going to go to keep browsing and click on housing costs because I want to see if there's a relationship between the number of available units in a block group and rent prices. So I'm going to click on housing costs. And now we can see that there's 105 variables from 5 different data sets. And in parentheses, it will show where all of those data sets are coming from. So we have 2010 census housing data and we have ACS housing data. I want to particularly look at 2015 to 2019 gross rent ACS data. So I'm going to expand that and I'm going to scroll down and look for 2019 households paying more than 50% of their income on rent. So again, I went to housing costs. I expanded 2015 to 2019 gross rent, and I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And I want to look at households spending more than 50% of their gross rent on income. So very rent burdened households within the city. I'm going to go ahead and select that layer. All right, so now we can see that our map looks a bit different because we have 2 different data sets and it is styling them automatically in a different way. So it's showing us that our dots are actually representing the number of households spending more income on rent or 50% of their income on rent. And then the color gradient scale is showing us the total housing units. I want to flip this. So I want housing units to be the circles, and I want the color to represent the total, the amount spent of income on rent. So what we can do is click the switch variables button here. So instead of the add variable button, we now have the option to switch our variables. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to switch our variables so that housing units, the number of housing units is represented by circle size, and color is representing the gross rent, the number of households paying more than 50% of their income on rent. So with this information, we can assume that areas that are very deep purple in color and areas or block groups that have the smallest circle are probably the areas we should focus on getting more housing, because clearly rent is more expensive here, or residents in this area are very rent burdened, so they might be making less but paying more of their income on rent. And in addition, there's just less housing units. The supply is lower than relative areas. So that in mind, it looks like this block group is one to focus on, as well as this one right here. So the smaller the circle means less housing units. The darker the color means more people paying more of their income on rent. And just visually, there are ways to change the appearance of our map. So this base map is kind of yellow, kind of ugly, not really feeling it. So we can change our base map on the top right-hand corner. So this base map button right next to our zoom wheel or our zoom bar is base map. So it's 4 squares next to each other, and it says base maps when you hover over it. If you click that button, we can choose our base map, which is our base visualization layer. So right now it's under streets. That is our base map. I'm going to switch it to dark gray canvas. You could do light gray canvas too. I'm going to do dark gray canvas just to give us a bit of contrast. There we go. So once you've selected a base map that you like, let's see what light gray canvas looks like. Oh, that looks nice too. I'm going to keep it at dark gray canvas. I like that. All right, so once you've selected your base map, go ahead and click the base map button again. All right, so that is how you can create a color-coded map in Business Analyst, all from data available in ArcGIS Online in the application. So let's say you wanted to put this in a story map, or you wanted to create a web app like we did in Justin's workshop. We can share this to ArcGIS Online, and that's through the Share Map to ArcGIS button. I'm just going to show you how you have the option to share it. Do not share it. It will take a couple of minutes and we won't have enough time. But just to show you, we've created our map. We've added 2 variables. If you would like to share it, this is how you would. I'm going to cancel out of this option right here. All right, any questions on color-coded maps? Very chatty. All right, so what we're gonna do next is create a smart map search and create a smart map. So to do that, I want to clear my current map. So what I'm gonna do is click that circle button with the X through it, and it will say clear map when you hover over it. So let's click clear map. And now there are 2 options or 2 items that we can clear. I want to keep my city boundary, so don't check that, but I want to check the household's rent income and total housing units, because this is my color-coded map analysis that I want to clear for my map. So I'm going to select that and press clear. So now I'm back to my boundary of my city and a clear map for my next analysis. All right, so to do a smart map analysis, we're going to click the create maps button again. So maps, create maps, and do a smart map search. Now on the left-hand side, the smart map search window will appear, and it will say, oh, how to use this workflow. You're going to click on a variable and set ranges and view your results. So go ahead and click Get Started. All right. So now we can see popular lists and my lists, or we can browse all variables. So there are 4 popular lists created by Esri on particular topics. Here we can see population and income, and housing. And so Smart Map Search essentially lets us view geographic areas that match our criteria of variables, and we can select up to 5 variables, and that make up a list of your criteria. So in this case, let's explore population and income. Before we select it, go ahead and click on the ellipses next to it. So the 3 dots, if you click it, it will ask to show list, and we'll be able to see the 4 variables that make up the population and income list. So we can see total population, compound annual growth rate, daytime population, and median household income. So that sounds good. I want to see what this looks like in my city. So I'm going to click Done and select that list. And so Business Analyst will automatically populate that data for us, and it will say we can use our sliders on the left. And then on the left-hand side, I want to switch from current map extent to my city boundary again, just so I can only look at block groups in my city boundary. And here we can use our sliders to eliminate geographic boundaries that don't meet our criteria. So let's say we want to look at block groups that are going to have a positive growth rate. So here, the second variable, I can switch from negative to 0. So only looking at population growth rates for block groups that are between 0 and 1%. So I've selected 0. And then let's say we only want to look at median household incomes that make below $50,000. I can edit my max. So instead of 107,000, I can make it 50,000. So I'll type in 50 and click enter. So now I'm eliminating boundaries by editing my criteria with the sliders. So based on this criteria of positive population growth rate incomes in my block groups less than 50,000, there's only 4 block groups that are still available. And if you hover over the block group, it will show how that block group performs on each of the 4 variables as well. And then conversely, if you hover over a block group that was eliminated, it will show which block or which criteria eliminated it. So in this case, the one above it was median household income of 105,000. All right, so we can also change our lists. So let's say we don't want to look at total population, and we don't want to look at daytime population. We can delete those by clicking the X button. And then we can add variables. So I only have 2 left because I deleted the other 2. I can add variables. So if I want to add a housing element to my Smart Map search, I can go ahead and click Add Variables. I'll go to Housing, and let's pull up total housing units. So I've selected total housing units. I'm going to click Apply at the bottom. So now I can run a new search with my 3 variables, so it won't save the sliding choices I made. So I'm going to go back to 0%, and then here I'll go back to 50%. And let's say I want to look at areas that have less than 300 units. So that is only 1 block group left. So this block group has a positive population growth rate, has a median household income of less than 50,000, and it has less than 300 housing units. So based on the analysis that you want to run, you can identify particular block groups that might be suitable for a certain type of development or zone change or whatever you would like to discover about your city. All right, any questions on smart map searches? If you want to run this 3 sets of variables on different geographies, so let's say you want to compare it city of San Fernando to city of Glendale, you can save the variable list and then it will save these 3 variables and you can pull that up and apply it to other boundaries in Business Analyst if that's something that you'd like to show. All right, so I'm going to click next. And now we can see that there's one block group that matches our criteria. It's this one right here. Now you have the option to export the results to Excel if you would like, or we can clear our map or share our map to ArcGIS Online. So again, it works the same for color-coded maps. You can share map to ArcGIS. I'm not going to do that on this workshop. And I'm going to clear our map for our next analysis. So I'm going to go ahead and click the clear map button. So here, I'm going to keep my boundary and I'm going to take off the smart map search results. So I'm going to check that to clear. All right, so that is how to create a smart map search. All right, so in addition to data sets from the census, the ACS, and from Esri, we also have data from third-party partners. And that data shows when we run a business and facility search. So that's going to be the thing we do next. So let's click Create Maps again. And now we're going to go to the third option, which is a business and facility search. So let's click that. And on the left-hand side, it will allow us to select categories of businesses that we want to see within our city or census tract. So there are different categories we can choose from: auto, clothing, housing, healthcare, food. If you expand it a bit more, then it's even broken down even further. So for this example, let's pull up grocery stores. So let's see all of the retail grocery stores in the city of San Fernando and neighboring areas. I'm going to check grocery stores or groceries retail. I'm going to click done. I can see it selected and I'm going to run go. And so now in our map, we'll see all of these little orange dots, and these orange dots represent businesses that identify as a retail grocery store. And if you have like an orange dot that has a number and a red circle next to it, that means that there's a cluster. So there's multiple grocers in that particular area. And if you click on that, you'll be able to see the 3 that are there. So in this case, there's an El Super. And I'm going to click on the El Super. And then that will generate a pop-up for that grocery store. And then we can select or click on multiple. So this one over here is a Vallarta, and that is generating the pop-up as well. All right, so one thing I want to add is that this business and facility data is coming from our third-party partner, and our data source is shown on the top left-hand corner. So we can see our data source is set at Data Axle. So we have a variety of third-party data partners that provide this data to us, and it is updated quarterly. And we do have documentation on how this information is given. And I think Andrew posted it in the chat. Thanks, Andrew. And I'll share that in a follow-up as well. But what's really nice is that there's some really interesting information related to these businesses, and we can find that in the attributes. So if you have clicked on a site, one of the orange dots, it will create a pop-up, and then you can click on the attributes. And the attributes to show us information like the number of employees that business is reporting, their sales volume, square footage as well. So in this case, this Vallarta is recording a sales volume of $34.3 million a year. So just for fun, let's see what's more popular, El Super or Vallarta. So I'm going to expand the attributes for Vallarta or for El Super, and we can see that they have basically half the employees, and they also have 19.8 million in sales volume. So in this area, looks like Vallarta is performing or has a higher sales volume reporting than El Super.
Hey, Robin, can you just show maybe one more time how you got that pop-up? I believe there's somebody in the chat that's saying that they're not getting it.
Okay, yeah, so we first have to run a search. So once you create map and do a business and facility search, then we can click the drop down for a category. So in this case, I clicked on grocers retail. So I selected that, I clicked done, and now I can see that I've selected it. Now you have to click go. And now you should be able to see orange dots on our map, and you can click on them. So this one right here, I can click on and I can expand the attributes. So clicking on the orange dots opens up the pop-up.
Thanks, Robin.
And if you don't want to see it in this view, we can edit our search on the left. So for example, on the left-hand side, we can see the business names, the cities. So if we only want to look at grocery stores within the city of San Fernando, I can uncheck all cities and just click on San Fernando. So there's 13 grocery stores. And at the very bottom, we can click on View Full Table, and that will show us a tabular view of all 13 of the grocery stores within the city of San Fernando with their attribute information. And just like the Smart Map search results, you can export to Excel. So if you just want to pull up a report of all of the different businesses, the grocery stores within the city of San Fernando that have the grocery store code, then you can export this list to Excel. Before you export to Excel, I want to point out what this little information button is saying right next to export to Excel. So it says exporting to Excel uses credits. So credits are something that exists in all applications in ArcGIS. So in ArcGIS Online, if you wanted to geocode or geolocate like a spreadsheet of locations, that would consume credits. And credits are something that are allocated by your organization administrator. So usually the GIS manager at your jurisdiction. For the SCAG account, so if you've met with me, then you have a SCAG RDP account with licenses attached to it. Your account, I believe, has 500 credits or something. Yeah, 500 credits. So you have like a bulk of credits that have been assigned to your account either by your administrator or by me if you've been using the SCAG RDP account. And those credits can be used for a variety of things, including exporting to Excel in Business Analyst. And I believe, depending on how big the table is, determines the amount of credits consumed. So because this is 13, I think it might be like 1 or 2 credits, very little. But I did want to point that out. All right, so I'm going to click the back. I'm going to click minimize table because I don't want to see the table anymore. So again, you can get that table view by clicking view full table, and then you can collapse it by minimizing. So let's look at another type of business. So let's click the back button and let's take out retail grocers and let's explore another category. You can do whichever one you're interested in. I'm going to do personal care, and let's just see all of the beauty salons within San Fernando. So I'm going to click beauty salons, click done, and run go. All right, that's interesting. So there's 35 in the city of San Fernando. Very interesting. That's a lot. And we can pull up these analyses. We can see all of these points. We can look at multiple categories too. So we have beauty salons. If we want to look at beauty salons and barbers, we can select 2 at one time and run go, and we can see all the beauty salons and barbers. So in total, there's 40 beauty salons and barbers in the city of San Fernando. All right, so that is how to conduct a business and facility search in Business Analyst. And so again, this data is coming from our data partners, Data Axle, or, oh yeah, I think it used to be Infographic or Infograph, but they've changed their name. So I believe it's only Data Axle at this moment. All right, and so once you're done with your analysis, go ahead and click Next. And now you can see that you can change the symbology. So if you want to change the point, you can do that. You can change the color. And you can see how it clustered. If there's multiple points together, it clustered them and then put the number next to the point to see how many are available in that cluster. You can uncheck that. So if you don't want to see the clusters, you can also edit that and edit the symbol. I'm going to leave it as is and click Next. And now you can save the layer. Again, you can export it to Excel. You can run a new search, or you can go ahead and click I'm done, which I'm going to do. All right, so that is conducting a business and facility search. The next thing I want to show is really cool. It's infographic. So how to create some really detailed visuals using all of the information in Business Analyst. So before I do that, I'm going to clear my map again. So on the right-hand side, I'm going to click Clear Map, and now I'm going to select the orange dot data set. So the barbers, beauty salons, or whichever you clicked on to clear. And now I'm left with just my citywide boundary and my base map. And if you click on your citywide boundary, you'll see that the pop-up for the boundary has 6 buttons. It has an infographics button, reports, you can do a comparison of geographies, you can edit the boundary, there's details, and then there's options. I want to focus on infographics. So let's click the infographics button. So automatically for me, a key facts infographic pops up. If you are using an account that had the wizard show up when you first opened Business Analyst, it's going to ask you what you want your default infographic to be. And then there's a drop down of different choices. You can choose whichever infographic you would like. So if you want key facts, that will open up. Some of you might have a demographic summary infographic, which is totally fine. You can change that once you have an infographic populated. You can change that on the top left-hand corner. So if I want to switch to demographic profile, I can open that for my city, or I can switch back to key facts. So I want to stay on the key facts infographic. And so I just want to briefly talk about what happened when I clicked the infographic button. So because we selected our boundary and then we chose to generate an infographic, Business Analyst is generating this visual with all of the data sets available in the application to contribute to our infographic. So we can see for key facts, if I hover over an icon, it's interactive and it's referencing the data sets available in the application. So in this case, for City of San Fernando, average household size is about 4 people. I can click Explore for More, and I can see a comparison of City of San Fernando's household size versus the county. So it's about 1 more person than the county, the state, and the US. So these are interactive infographics that you can explore and see how your site, whether it's a city or a block group or a census tract, compares to the county that the city or block group is in, the state, and the country. And these can be edited. So you can edit the colors you would like. If you want to add a citywide logo because you want to share this with stakeholders, you can go ahead and edit that. You can change the colors. You can change the data sources as well. So there's a lot of configurable items that you can address in an infographic so that it fits your need. And then just like the tables you can export to Excel, you can export infographics. So that little export button on the top right-hand corner, if you click that, we can export as 4 different items. So we can export it as a PDF, an image, dynamic HTML, which means that it can be embedded into a web page, or Excel. So if you just want the numbers of this infographic, you can export it to Excel. And I will notice or make this something to note that this action, anything that you use to export in Business Analyst, consumes credits. So in this case, this information button is saying this action uses credits. And so if you create a PDF, credit consumption will occur. And I believe a PDF export takes about 8 to 12 credits. Any questions so far on how I got to infographics? One thing I want to show you, which is really cool, is that you can compare geographies and have the same infographic for multiple geographies. So to do that, if I click my boundary on the top portion of my screen, so if I click the drop down for City of San Fernando, I can click the compare with geographies. Yeah, how much to purchase additional credits? It's not very much. Andrew, do you know the answer to that?
I'm not off the top of my head, but it should have a credit calculation when you actually do like generate the infographic and export it out. There should be like a little window that says this costs X amount of credits, but it is not that much.
I think he's asking like, how much is it to buy more credits?
Oh,
I can
go for
send
it.
in a URL I just found. So it looks like $100 for 1,000 credits.
There you go.
10 cents a credit or something.
Oh yeah, okay. That's not very much. Wow. All right. So yeah, there you go. $100 for 1,000 credits. All right. So going back to comparing with geographies, if I click that button right here, and if I hover over the information button, it says the centroid is used to calculate associated geography levels for polygon and geography sites. And then you can change these geography levels. So we're going to use the default. So let's click on compare with geographies. And what Business Analyst is going to do is it's going to generate 5 infographics, the 5 key facts infographics for different geographies. So on the left, you'll always have the geography that you created. So we have City of San Fernando here, and then it automatically will create one for a zip code nearby. We can always delete these geographies if we don't find them relevant. I don't think this zip code is relevant. I'm going to click the 3 dots next to it and click remove from comparison. So now we have 4 geographies comparing on the same key facts. We have the City of San Fernando, we have LA County, California, and the US. And this is really interesting. So for the City of San Fernando, the median household income is about $64,500, which is drastically lower than the county, which is $74,500. And both of those are lower than the state, which is $80,000. But if we compare the US to City of San Fernando, they're basically the same. So it's very interesting to see and compare the same facts for different geographies just relative to each other. And in this case, for City of San Fernando, the percentage of residents with no high school diploma is much higher than the county, the state, and the US. So I know planners have used these infographics to help write grants and to demonstrate need for money for particular projects. And I've seen that being used by exporting as a PDF or merely exporting as Excel to get the numbers, or just reporting these key facts and referencing them and the data sets and the sources. in their applications. So now that we have this set for a side-by-side geographic comparison, we can switch our infographic. So this is key facts. Let's say we want to look at demographic profile. I can go ahead and click demographic profile, and it will show me that for each of the boundaries, and it brings up the zip code again, which I don't want, so I'm going to delete that. So remove area from comparison. And then one more that I really want to highlight, it is new. So I think it came with the newest release of Business Analyst, which occurred in March. If we scroll down to the bottom, there's a little new icon next to it, and it's shopping and spending. So let's look at that one for our geographic boundaries. Again, I'm going to delete the zip code, remove area from comparison. So right off the bat, it is showing us this $ icon. It's showing us in orange services that people in this area spend less than average on, and everything in blue, the slight blue color, are services that people in the area spend more than average on. So in the city of San Fernando, there's a lot of people spend less than average, but one thing that they spend drastically more than average on is tuition for schools, which is very interesting. That may be pointing to the fact that the school districts or the schools are not as good as they could be, and people are investing more in tuition for private schools. So what are some interesting trends that are showing up for the geographies that you're looking at? For City of San Fernando, right? A large portion, or way more than average, people in this area have shopped at Sears or Ross within the last 3 months than the majority of the US. And it's funny here, for looking at California, California is really high for shopping at Target within the last 3 months. I'm definitely guilty of that.
Robin, I ran mine for Redlands, and Redlands spends the most on electricity, which is kind of interesting.
Oh, because it's so hot.
yeah, exactly.
That's so funny.
I think it's interesting how women's skirts is something that is being spent a lot of money on.
Yeah. And if you click on one, it will give you some more information. So it's showing us that this area has an index of 140. So in LA County, the index of women's skirts being bought is higher than the national average. But no one's spending money on campers or boats. All right, so as you can see, infographics are really powerful visuals that you can use and share with others, and they're also really fun. You can go ahead and explore all of the preset infographics, and then you can also create your own custom infographic. So if none of the templates are really speaking to you or addressing the story that you're wanting to tell or show for your city, you always have the option to create a custom infographic, and there is lots of documentation on how to create a custom infographic, setting it to a data source, and then reporting on it for different geographies like we're doing here for the county, the city, the state, and the US as a whole. All right, so I'm gonna close out of our infographics window. So on the top right-hand corner, there is a close button. I'm gonna go ahead and click that. And now we're back to our maps view. So I did mention early on in the presentation that we have data for the 2020 census that is prepped and configured and loaded into Business Analyst. There are a few data sets available. Not all of them are available yet, like 2010. for housing, but we do have a couple available. So if you're interested in looking at the 2020 census data sets, I can show you how to pull those up. So on the top right-hand corner, we have our autosave button, which we don't need to click. And then we have our country. So here it says we're in the USA, of course. And if we click the U button for USA, there's a little gear and it allows us to click it for data source selections. So if I click that gear button, we can see that we're in the standard view, which has 8,600 variables that we've been looking at. And then there's the census PL94 data source that has 496 variables. And this is where our 2020 data set and our census data is located. So I'm going to go ahead and click apply next to census PL94. So just in case you weren't able to follow, on the top right hand corner, go ahead and click our country. Let's go to United States, and then there's that gear button next to USA, and we're going to select the census PL94 data source and click apply. And that will pull up our 2020 census data sets that we have. And so again, if we want to look at those data sets, we can create a map and we can do a color-coded map, for instance. So I'm going to click color-coded map again. And then on the left-hand side, we can browse all of our variables. So I'm going to click browse all variables, and now we can see what is available from the 2020 census. So for population, we can see 2020 total population, compound growth rate, and population in group quarters. And then if you hover over the information icon, it will show us now that our source is census 2020 data. So if you want to look at current population levels according to the 2020 census, we can now pull up that information very quickly on the block group level. And then we can add another variable. So I'm going to click the add variable button again. I can click categories. We can look at housing. So now for housing, there's 3 different buttons. There's 2020 total housing units, there's vacant housing units, and then there's compound annual growth rate, or we can do occupancy status. So if we want to look at 2020 vacant housing units, again, here we can find that, as well as vacant housing units with the compound annual growth rate. I'm going to go back to the housing button and I'm going to click total housing units. All right, so now we can see we're looking at census data from 2020 for total housing units, as well as total population. So in this case, areas that have very high population but low housing units would be smaller circles that are darker in color. In this case, it looks like this one would be the one that has maybe the highest population with the least amount of housing units. Whereas this makes sense. So this one has very little housing units, but that's because population is less. So that does make sense. Where same for this one. There's a lot of housing units because the population is higher. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click next. I'm going to do I'm done. And then I'm going to clear my map on the right again. So I'm going to click clear map. I'm going to select the population census data set and the total housing units, and I'm going to click clear. And you might be wondering if there's any infographic templates available with the housing or the census data sets, and there are. So if you select your boundary again and you click infographics, there is a census redistricting data infographic. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click save because it's asking me which one I want to default. And it's going to generate this template infographic we made for census redistricting data. And this one has 2 pages. So on the right-hand side, there's an up and down arrow. And I will add, not all of the data sets for census are loaded in. They're kind of coming along with each update of Business Analyst. So what we have so far is some information on population. We have population by age. We have diversity index, Hispanic versus non-Hispanic population, and total households. But we're still working on getting the detailed data configured and ready for our applications, and that should be available within the next couple of months. Any questions on 2020 census data? So we do have 34 minutes. There is another feature I wanted to show on how to create boundaries to run analyses in, and that is by creating pins. So let's say you want to know what the demographic area looks like between like a 10-minute walk and a 20-minute walk from a bus station. So let's say said bus station is over in Pacoima. So I'm going to go to Van Nuys Boulevard. I can use our pin button. So our very top button on our toolbar on the right is the ability to create pins. So I can create a pin wherever a potential bus stop or existing bus stop could be in this scenario. So I'm going to click that pin, and now I can create a site from this pin, and I'm going to do that. So I'm going to click Create Site, and now it's asking me if I want to do rings of 1, 3, and 5 miles, if I want to do a drive time analysis, or if I want to do a walk time analysis. So let's say I want to do a walk time analysis, and I want to see the walk time analysis buffer for 10 minutes and 20 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type in 10 and 20, and I'm going to check use bands, because that means it's going to separate the 10-minute buffer from the 20-minute buffer. I'm going to click Apply. So on the fly, Business Analyst is using the street network data that's already loaded into the application to generate a 10-minute walking buffer and a 20-minute walking buffer from that pin that I made, which is saying State Farm, but I'm going to say potential bus stop. I'm going to rename it potential bus stop. All right, so now we have created another site in Business Analyst. Just like our citywide boundary, right, is a site, we've created another site, which is 10-minute boundary and then 20-minute boundary for walking or walk shed from this particular potential bus stop. And now we can run infographics on it too. So I'm going to click the infographics button, and it's going to pull up that redistricting data for that particular walk shed that I'm showing. And because I'm in the 2020 census data, the only infographic available is the redistricting template. So if I click the close button, I'm going to go up to my country for USA, and I'm going to switch back to the original. So I've just switched my data sources to the original data source. So I'm out of the 2020 census data, and I'm going to run infographics again. And it's going to show me the key facts for the 10-minute walk shed and then the 20-minute walk shed. So with the two boundaries, I can do two infographics and I can compare them side by side. So I can see the demographics within 10-minute walk shed and then a 20-minute walk shed from that potential bus stop. You can do the same thing for, let's say you have an empty parcel in a shopping center and you want to get an idea of what the demographic profile would look like of the potential customers. We can see the education levels of these areas, income levels, employment, income. So it can help inform businesses and also help inform you of what this area looks like within a 20-minute walk and a 10-minute walk. It could be drive time too, so lots of different things to look at and examine. Questions on this? All right, so that concludes the hands-on portion of the workshop. Thank you all for, oh yeah, can I demo how to pin again?
Yes. Thanks, Robin.
I will do that. So let me clear the one I have. So to create a pin, first off, find the area in the map that you want to pin. So I'm going to go to City of Northridge. And I want to pin, I'm trying to find the Northridge Mall. Here it is. So I know Porto's just opened at the Northridge Mall. So let's say I want to put a pin right at the new Porto's. I'm going to do that. And I want to see the area, the walking distance of the area between 10 and 20 minutes from the new Porto's. So I have the area I want to pin in my map. I'm going to click the pin button on the top right-hand corner. So I've selected the pin button right here. And now if I hover over any point in my map, it will say click on map to define location. So I'm going to do that right here. I'm going to click the pin. So now I've created a pin on my map. I'll add the site name. I know this is a Porto's. My mom told me it just opened and I'm very jealous that she has a Porto so close to her now. And I really want to go. It looks beautiful. All right, so here's my new Porto's. I've created the pin on my map. Now I can create a site. So I'm going to click the create site button. And this is where you can run your analysis, whether that's just buffers of 1, 3, and 5 miles, not taking into account the street network. You could do a drive time of 5, 10, 15, whatever time you would like, and then a walk time. So this time I'll do a drive time. I'll do 5 minutes and then I'll do 10 minutes. And then I'll click use bands and apply. So this is actually interesting for Porto's. It's probably why they put this location. Because they put the Porto's in the Northridge Mall and looking at this drive time analysis, they can basically serve the entire valley or people within 20 minutes, which is the entire valley, essentially, coming to this Porto's. And then from here, now that we have our sites, if you click that pin again, you can click the infographics button. You can generate infographics for the drive time analyses. And you can do a side-by-side comparison. I'm hungry now. It's a pretty cool tool. This is one of my favorite tools that Esri has, honestly. It's very powerful. It doesn't require any setup because the data is already available, and you can discover some really interesting facts about your jurisdiction. All right. Any other questions?
How did you get the side-by-side comparison?
Oh yeah. All right. So click the pin, click infographics. So at the top, it will show me how I can toggle between the infographics for the different boundaries. So there's 0 to 5 drive time, and then there's 5 to 10-minute drive time. And then I can click the button for side-by-side comparison. So you click the drop down of your boundary, and then you can turn on side-by-side comparison. Yeah, no problem. In case you were interested on how you edit an infographic or edit the color, you can click the edit button on the top right next to export. And it will allow us to edit our widgets and the color. So if I want to click the edit button for here, and I want to change the average household size, I have full control over doing all of that through the edit capability.
You can also select from different templates or different lines based on different variables used.
Yeah, there's a lot you can configure. And you can, yeah, like he said, you can pull from one template and bring it into this one. All right. So just to show you how to get back out of the edit mode, I'm going to click cancel. And now I'm going to click the map button again. So we were in reports when we clicked the edit button. I'm going to go back to maps. All right. Any other questions?
Question. I was kind of playing around with it, trying to find something for my city, and I kind of forgot how you got to the place where you had the different, so you had the city, the county, and the state.
Oh yeah. Do you mean for selecting geographies or in the infographics?
In the infographics.
Yeah, good question. So let me clear my map. So here's my boundary. I'll click infographics here for my city. And then under the drop down,
Okay.
there's compare with geographies. And then if we click compare with geographies, it will default to the city you chose, a zip code in the city, the county, the state, and the US. And then you can remove an area that you don't want, or you can add another one too by add sites to compare.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. So that just about wraps up the hands-on portion. If you wouldn't mind, we would love it if you could participate in our survey. And then Morgan, would you mind sharing the survey link in the chat? Or I can do it too.
Yep, just grabbing it right now.
Sorry, I just pasted it in because
Oh,
it was
you did it
right in front of me. Sorry, I was right in front of me. But if you wouldn't mind just taking 2 minutes to answer the survey, that would be awesome. So this workshop is hosted by SCAG, and SCAG is always trying to better serve its member agencies, whether it's through training or new technologies or new data that's coming in. And that, of course, also applies to the regional data platform and the licenses that you have access to as part of the program. So if you wouldn't mind filling out this survey, that would greatly help us as well. And also, if you do have any questions about business analyst, or you think about business analyst after the call and then you have more questions, feel free to email me. I'll put my email in the chat, and then I'll also follow up so you know how to find me. So yeah, I will keep that link up. And then for training and resources on business analyst, I highly recommend going to the Planners Corner, the SCAG Regional Data Platform Planners Corner website, and I'll show you how to get there. So if you go to scag.ca.gov, at the top of the screen, there's an RDP button. So at the very top portion of the SCAG website, there's an RDP button. and there is the ability to request licenses. So if you are on this call and you don't think that your city has requested access to these free licenses, you can request them here on the software license request page. And then you can also access the regional data platform. So I'm going to click access regional data platform. And here's where you'll find a lot of resources and data available to you that has been configured by SCAG for your jurisdiction. And on the top portion, there's Planner's Corner. And here you can see data sets and examples and use cases of other SCAG member agencies and planners using tools like Business Analyst, Urban, and Online, all in one web page for you. So here, if you want to learn more about Business Analyst and do extensive workflows, we have a couple listed here to get started. And one of them is shade equity, determine tree planting locations with suitability analysis. And that was created by none other than Andrew. So you should definitely do it. It's really interesting. Great job, Andrew.
Thanks, Robin.
So yeah, all of those are available on the Planner's Corner, which I'll also share in the chat and share in a follow-up. And thank you, Morgan, for posting the links for registration. So this was workshop 2 out of 4 in a SCAG Regional Data Platform training series for GIS tools. And next week we have ArcGIS Urban, which will be run by yours truly. And then in May, Morgan will be leading the hub workshop. So be sure to register for those if you haven't already. All right, are there any questions? I think we can end a bit early, so I'll give you 19 minutes back in your day, and we'll be sure to share the recording on the Planner's Corner website when it's available, as well as in the follow-up along with the data resources that we highlighted and mentioned on the workshop. All right, thank you everyone for joining. I hope you have a good rest of your day and a good weekend. Bye-bye.